Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books, and I have been covering Bob Iger and Disney for the last couple of months, and I can tell you something is really strange at Disney with Bob Iger returning. I'm not quite sure why he returned. There's been a lot of interesting coverage, especially recently. We know Bob Chapek was not really doing so well as CEO of Disney. They did lose a lot of money through the streaming service, and some of Bob Chapek's initiatives, which were an expansion on what Bob Iger had already started, the streaming service. What is going on with Bob Iger in China? Why is it that as soon as it's announced Bob Iger is returning, China all of a sudden says, oh, great, you can have an Avatar 2 release in China now? Because they weren't going to give Avatar 2 a release in China. They just were not. Now, not only are they giving it a release in China, they're giving it an extended release over the Lunar New Year holiday. That is not typical for China. China has not been carrying Disney's movies since like 2019. Something's a little suspicious. In addition, there was a recent announcement that China is going to be, in addition to announcing the release of Avatar 2, they're also going to be releasing Black Panther 2. I thought that movie was done already. No, it's not done yet. We can make some more money in China. And Ant-Man 3 is going to secure China release dates. So what exactly is going on with Bob Iger and China that they seem to have this special love connection? Hey, it's good for Disney to be able to distribute their films wherever they can as long as they're going to get paid, and China will pay them. China pays the lowest rate, by the way, of all international films. They pay 25 cents on the dollar as opposed to, say, 40 cents on the dollar of whatever the box office is in China. All the other international countries are really at 40 cents on the dollar. In the US, it's generally 50 cents on the dollar. In China, it's 25 cents. But it does help make the films look good and gives them extra distribution, and they make some money. So if you do $200 million in additional box office on a film in China, for example, that's another $50 million you get to stick in your pockets. You've made extra money. So that part's good. But what kind of a deal is Bob Iger making with the government of China? And why do they love him so much? There's an interesting article covering a lot of this in Bounding Into Comics. Let's get into this article. Before we do, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. You guys are the best. I really do appreciate you. Report: the Walt Disney Company and Marvel Studios to educate actors in order to placate communist China. Believe it or not, yes, this is true. A new report claims that Walt Disney Company and Marvel Studios will begin educating their actors and executives in order to placate communist China to ensure the release of future films in the country. The report comes from The Hollywood Reporter's Kim Masters and Alex Wiepren as they covered an investor battle inside of the Walt Disney Company, pitting current CEO Bob Iger against former Marvel executive Ike Perlmutter and hedge fund manager Nelson Peltz, who wants a seat on Disney's board. And as I've been saying in my recent Nelson Peltz related videos, Peltz knows what he's doing. He's about as bad as Carl Icahn in terms of having an enemy messing with your company. Peltz has done this 30 plus times before, and he's been very successful at getting his way inside of companies. Amid the report, Masters and Wiepren claim that future Marvel films will not feature any Chinese villains, but that the talent will be well schooled to watch their words. So here's the report that they're referring to from Bounding Into Comics. And this is just, a kind of a one-off statement here. And China just agreed to give valuable release dates for Marvel movies generally. Not only are we extremely unlikely to see any Chinese villains, but presumably the talent will be well schooled to watch their words. Kim Masters is a big deal at The Hollywood Reporter. And it's interesting that Kim put that additional part in. So China is going to be having some control over Disney. It does make you wonder also, because we know that the Chinese version of TikTok is extremely different than the United States version of TikTok, and it's not rated the same way. They don't have the same kinds of content. A lot of people love TikTok in the US, and that's great. My brother actually loves TikTok. He keeps telling me about it and sending me links to silly things on it. I'm not really a TikTok person, but in China, they don't allow their youth to watch TikTok endlessly. So it makes you wonder, like, everything that Bob Iger is doing, why is everything he's doing pro what China wants? In the movies, in the content, in the woke ideology stuff, which they also, by the way, don't really allow in China, but somehow it's mainstreamed here, and smiling, happy Bob Iger is pushing it. Let me know what you think of that in the comments below if you would, because I think Bob Iger should have to reveal what all of his contacts are with the communist China government. And what arrangements is he making on behalf of stockholders of Disney, but also Americans? Because he's involved in producing American culture. He's responsible for it. What is he promising to do or not do? Because that's going to reflect on what our children see here in this country. All the content we see, all the statements that people are being allowed to make if they're actors or are involved with any of these projects. This report comes after the Walt Disney Company's official Chinese social media accounts announced that Black Panther: Wakanda Forever and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania secured theatrical releases in China. The Hollywood Reporter's Patrick Brzezinski reported on January 17th, Marvel shared the surprise news Tuesday over its official Chinese social media accounts. The two titles will be the very first movies of Marvel's Phase 4 to screen in China, as the last approved theatrical releases from the studio were Spider-Man: Far From Home and Avengers Endgame way back in early to mid 2019. YouTuber Yellowflash, great channel, definitely subscribe to Yellowflash, commented on this report from the Hollywood Reporter, indicating Disney and Marvel stars will be educated to not offend communist China, saying, "What a loser move this is." He continued, "It's always Disney that does this. Disney always willing to step back. This is all about making as much money as possible." I think it's worse than that. I think that Bob Iger has agreed ideologically to utilize what China wants to do because it seems to fit the woke agenda, which seems to be the only thing that you can count on Disney for. You can't count on their stock price. You can't count on how they're going to treat franchises. You can't count on them respecting fans. You can't count on the prices of the theme parks. You can't count on the prices on the streaming service either, or profits for the streaming service, or profits for their whole business. But you can count on the fact that Bob Iger will make sure, no matter what it takes and what he's got to do, he will use all of his power and all of his content to destroy franchises and push everything woke. And I would rather these companies not do this and not bend the knee to this country because they really don't like us. Hey, as far as bending the knee to the country or whatever, I would just like to see these companies publicly talk about what backroom deals that they've made that affect our culture and that at least affect stockholders. At the very least, like, hey, stockholders, we've made this deal with this communist country and don't worry about it because it's going to be good financially, but here's some of the changes we're going to be forced to make and how it's going to limit our contracts with our actors, because they're going to contract their actors and force their actors, probably in contracts, to not discuss or say certain things. Making our movies less patriotic or changing things to make China happy just seems kind of backwards to me. It seems kind of backwards, he asserted. This is Yellowflash. And other companies are moving forward saying, we don't really care that much. And when you've got Disney just salivating at the fact of censoring their own movies just so they can get it out in that country. It seems kind of wrong, but Disney's morally bankrupt for a long time anyway, so he's not really surprised. Yellowflash would also suggest that actors will act similar to John Cena did when he groveled to the Chinese and apologized to them when he referred to Taiwan as a country during a promotional event for Fast and Furious 9. While doing an interview on the Taiwanese Broadcasting Network to promote the film, Cena stated that Taiwan would be the first country to watch the film. Now, if you make a statement that Taiwan would be the first country to get to see the movie, the issue with China is not that you make a reference to say, well, they're the first country, and that China's jealous because they didn't get to see the film. It's that China gets very offended if you refer to Taiwan as its own country because China feels that Taiwan is a part of China. So they are extremely aggressive and very, very unhappy. And they do this throughout industry. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this or not, but they do it also to airlines and things like that. You're not supposed to list Taiwan as a separate country. It gets pretty wild. He would later issue an apology, this is Cena, in Mandarin on Weibo for claiming Taiwan was a country. Mandarin is in Chinese language. Cena's apology was shared to Twitter by Joe Shu. And basically this is just John Cena apologizing in Chinese to China and to any Chinese that were offended by his referring to Taiwan as a country. That's what he's apologizing for. It's funny the things that we take for granted, because I live in the United States, about having certain freedoms. And although they're under attack and a lot of us are not comfortable with that, he's not even allowed to make a reference that he feels that Taiwan is a country. No, he's not. A translation of Cena's apology was done by South China Morning Post. He stated, "Hi China, I'm John Cena. I'm in the middle of Fast and Furious 9 promotions. I'm doing a lot of interviews. I made a mistake in one of my interviews." Cena continued, "Everyone was asking me if I could use Chinese. Movie staff gave me a lot of information, so there's a lot of interviews and information. I made one mistake. I have to say something very, very, very important now. I love and respect China and Chinese people. I'm very, very sorry about my mistake," said Cena. He continued profusely apologizing. I apologize. I mean, this is groveling. "I'm very sorry. You must understand that I really, really love and respect China and the Chinese people. My apologies. I mean, what do you think of this? Let me know in the comments below. Do you think that Bob Iger has some kind of a strange secret connection with China? I mean, it sounds ridiculous. Like, I don't think he's a spy or anything, but I think he's doing deals on behalf of the American people and behalf of the company of Disney. And I don't think he's disclosing in their financial reports whatever their arrangements with the country and the communist government of China actually is. They should be disclosing that. It's material / important to the company. And also, as consumers, a lot of us are turned off to Disney as it is. But we would kind of like to know the rest of these details because it might make us think even further differently about wanting to do business with Disney or any of their products or have our children around any of their products if seriously Bob Iger is making unusual arrangements, maybe business-wise, and frankly, maybe personal-wise. We have no idea what's going on. Only that when it comes to China and Bob Iger, things happen that otherwise would not happen, especially with Bob Chapek as the CEO. And why is that? What's the possible explanation for that? Let me know what you think of that, please, in the comments below. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.